Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. The program is Focal Point, number 888-589-8840. Brian in Redfield, Arkansas. Robert in Camden. Hang on just a second. We'll be with you. Get your phone calls here in just a moment. Now, one of the areas where the left is beginning to come unhinged at Barack Obama is over this whole drone issue. Now, I have told you before that I think the president does have the authority to go after members of al-Qaeda, even if they're American citizens. Just as if you had an American citizen put on a Nazi uniform, jumped in a Panzer tank, we would have the absolute right to go after him and take him out. He becomes an enemy combatant at that point. He forfeits his rights as an American citizen to legal judicial process under that circumstance. Now, the memo that Barack Obama's administration drafted to justify the use of drones goes considerably beyond that. Andy McCarthy's got a good piece. I'm not going to take time to work through it. But it dangerously expands the president's authority, and in a way that Andy McCarthy believes goes beyond what the Constitution permits. He agrees that the Constitution does permit that when Congress authorizes military action, that the president does have wide discretion there in dealing with enemy combatants. And Congress has authorized us to go after everybody that was connected to 9/11. That's Taliban. That's al-Qaeda. So we can go after Taliban. We can go after al-Qaeda. If you've got an American citizen that's helping al-Qaeda, we can go after them because they're connected to 9/11. That's what the authorization for the use of military force was all about. But the left, remember, they got apoplectic at George Bush for simply detaining people on the field of battle, for enhanced interrogation, and now they're starting to get pretty squirrely about President Obama and this unlimited use of drones. Now, here's Bill Maher, clip number 3, Rob. Bill Maher. He's on with talking with Tina Brown of Newsweek. And now Bill Maher is actually starting to see the light. I mean, he has seen the light on Islam. I mean, Bill Maher is one of the few people on the left that says, look, you got Western civilization, you got Islamic civilization. They're not the same. Ours is way better. Theirs is way worse, and he will say that unapologetically. So at least when it comes to Islam, he's not a multiculturalist. He says, nah, we got it better here in the West. Our values are better. Our women are treated better. We have more religious liberty. We have freedom of speech. They don't, all that. Bill Maher sees actually some of that, and he's talking here with Tina Brown. Here's what he had to say.
And these are the kind of people who we are attacking with the drones. Now, I'm not saying there isn't collateral damage, and that's horrible, but a lot of them, you know, they do want to kill us. And when they're not trying to get us, that's what they're doing. They're beheading women for listening to the radio. They
Bill.
But, you know, and whenever you get into this subject about people in different parts of the world, especially the Muslim world, I always get a lot of feedback from people. They say, you know, people are just different. You know, there's nobody is superior to one another. Mitt Romney waded into this during the campaign. Remember, he was in Israel, and he said, well, look at the disparity economically between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And he said, culture matters. And I thought, well, you know, a broken clock is right twice a day. I think he's right.
So I think he's right. So Bill Maher rejecting multiculturalism when it comes to Islam because, look, these people are out to kill us. And the way they treat women is absolutely abominable. Now, here is, as that conversation continues, let's grab clip number 5, if we can, talking about the drone thing. And here is Tina Brown talking with Bill Maher. And listen to what she has to say. She's the editor of Newsweek. And what she says would have happened to George Bush if this drone policy had happened under his administration. Let's listen.
I mean, he'd be impeached by now for drones if he was W. Bush. Yeah,
No.
don't you think? I mean, don't you
Impeached
think?
for
Well, I think that there's
By
no doubt
who?
that
Who would- what-
I think that if this was a Republican president, the outcry about drones would be far greater.
well, I mean,
I think that's true, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the outcry would be correct.
Absolutely.
So Tina Brown said, look, if Bush was doing this, he would have been impeached by now. Here's Bill Maher's clip 4, his leftist credentials unimpeachable. And listen to how he describes President Obama's use of drones.
Our blind faith in technology, combined with a sense of infallible righteousness, continues unabated. It brought us to grief in Vietnam and Iraq, and may do so again with President Obama's cold-blooded use of drones and his seeming indifference to so-called collateral damage, otherwise known as innocent bystanders. By the standards of slaughter in Vietnam, the deaths by drone are hardly a blip on the consciousness of official Washington. But we have to wonder if each one, a young boy gathering wood at dawn, unsuspecting of his imminent annihilation, the student picking up the wrong hitchhikers, that tribal elder standing up against fanatics, doesn't give rise to second thoughts by those judges who prematurely handed our president the Nobel Prize for Peace. Better, they had kept it on the shelf in hopeful waiting, untarnished.
So Bill Moyer is saying, look, President Obama didn't deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. He was given that prematurely because what about the young boy gathering wood, unsuspecting, the student picking up the wrong hitchhiker, the tribal elder standing up, and they're getting wiped out. They're getting taken out. Doesn't he care about them? And, you know, Rob Gardner mentioned to me while we're listening to that clip, what about babies in the womb? He doesn't care about babies in the womb either. And, you know, Bill Moyer said, look, this is cold-blooded. This is a cold-blooded use of drones. This is Bill Moyers on the left. This is a guy that has indifference to what's being inflicted on innocent bystanders. So again, the left beginning to turn on him. Let's play one more clip before we go to the phones. Jeff, we can grab that audio clip. That black comedian, Kamau Bell, he's doing a nightclub act. And now, of course, he's a comedian, but he's an uber leftist, big-time supporter of Barack Obama, and he's now going after Mr. Obama. Let's listen.
Can we define an imminent threat, please?
Imminence does not mean that the United States has to have clear evidence that a specific attack on U.S. persons or interests is underway.
Oh, so they don't need evidence to kill people. So what the administration means by imminent threat is that the administration is an imminent threat. Somewhere the Nobel Committee is going, which one of us is going to ask President Obama to return that Peace Prize? I mean, they made Milli Vanilli give back that Grammy. Droning is way worse than lip syncing. And this is why I can't stand people calling Obama a socialist or a communist or comparing him to Hitler. Obama's not Hitler. He's Bush. That's right. Black liberal guy going in on Obama. What? Yeah. Some man.
That's a black liberal guy. Comedian by the name of Kamau Bell. It says, hey, black liberal going after Barack Obama. He ought to give the Nobel Peace Prize back. Who's going to ask him? Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Robert, Camden, Tennessee. Robert, thanks for calling. Thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
Hello.
Hey.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I ran across something a couple of days ago, and I'm not sure if it's legitimate or not. Have you ever heard of a state police officer by Lieutenant McCoy from North Carolina?
No, explain a little bit more. I'm not sure I know what you're talking about.
Okay. This Lieutenant McCoy talked on the radio, and they've got it on YouTube here, about Obama and martial law and how he and others were trained to prepare for martial law. And on this radio, he says that this was January 2nd of this year, 2013. He says that within 3 to 6 months, he expects the federal government to carry this out by their training. And I just wondered if you had heard anything about it.
Well, you know, there have been rumors about Barack Obama declaring martial law. I am very reluctant to believe that he would do that. I think even he would realize that that is a bridge too far. We've heard some stories. I haven't been able to confirm these. I don't find this unbelievable. Don't misunderstand me. But so far it's just one source saying that President Obama is actually asking military officials before he puts them in office or nominates them or whatever, would you be willing to shoot American citizens? And other soldiers have been asked the same question before they're placed in certain positions. And again, that's just coming from one source. We don't have that verified yet, so I'm not prepared to say that that's accurate. We've got a lot of conversation about martial law, and I don't believe that is a threat at this point. But again, it's not out of the realm of possibility. You know, and I've talked, Robert, about the fact that Department of Homeland Security now has 2 billion rounds of ammunition that cannot be used in warfare. They're contrary to the Geneva Convention. So this is a federal law enforcement agency that has 2 billion rounds of ammunition that they can only use on American citizens. And that to me is a very alarming development. And you've got Jesse Jackson already out there saying we need to have the Department of Homeland Security, a federal law enforcement presence, patrolling the streets of Chicago. And this is completely contrary to the way the founders established the United States, that there would be certain issues that would be the province of the federal government, but the vast majority of law enforcement issues would belong to state and local governments. They did not want armed troops, armed law enforcement personnel from the federal government inserting themselves into our cities and into our states and onto our streets. And that's exactly where the Department of Homeland Security seems to be heading. So anyway, Robert, we will certainly keep an eye on that. Again, I don't think it's likely we're going to see martial law, but with this president, I got to tell you, nothing is beyond the realm of possibility. Let's grab a call from Brian in Redfield, Arkansas. Brian, you're on Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks a lot. I listen every day.
Thank you, sir.
I'm calling in regards to time and the age of the earth, and I firmly believe that we most definitely have a young creation, and I grew up listening and watching the old tapes of One Kid Hovine and stuff like that, so that kind of got me along that path. But I recently read something, and unfortunately I can't cite the reference, but it was very interesting, and it brought up the fact of time dilation, where if an astronaut has a watch on and they set the time right, the astronaut will appear to age slightly less than the clock here, and our satellites actually adjust for that.
Yeah.
Well, at the time of creation, it was proposing that a day with God could actually appear to be more like 1,000 years from our perspective.
Right.
And the age could actually be dependent upon the perspective you have and our perspective here on Earth.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that call, Brian. And that's what Einstein was talking about with his theory of relativity. We think of time as an absolute. But Einstein said, no, time is a relative thing. It depends on your perspective, where you are, how fast things are moving away from you or towards you. In fact, that was the plot device in Planet of the Apes. Remember that? Charlton Heston goes off in a spaceship, but because he's in outer space, he ages more slowly than people on Earth. When he gets back, the apes have taken over. That's predicated on something that's scientifically accurate. Focal Point AFR Talk.